Hi there, this is Wasim Asgar. I'm a licensed professional engineer in the US and Canada. I've authored several books on the topic of FE Electrical and PE Power exam preparation. I've also developed online exam preparation courses for FE Electrical and PE Power. As the saying goes, all is well that ends well. So how do you make sure that the months of preparation, planning, hard work that you have put in to your FE Electrical and PE Power exam preparation ends on a high note? In this video, we're going to go over the game plan for the last few days and the last week or two of your FE Electrical and PE Power exam preparation. So let's start with an assumption that you've completed all the exam topics, all the subsections, all the sections for FE Electrical and Computer as well as the PE Power exam. So regardless whether you're taking the FE Electrical and Computer exam or the PE Power exam, my advice, my recommendations are going to be same. In the FE Electrical and Computer exam, there are about 17 sections: math, circuits, electronics, engineering economics, ethics, and so on. In PE Power, there are 4 big sections. You have general power engineering, circuits, rotating machines and devices, and transmission and distribution, high voltage, low voltage, medium voltage. And all of these sections are divided into subsections. You have individual topics. So the assumption is that you have worked through every single one of the exam topic using the resources that you're using. As I mentioned earlier, I have authored several books on the topic of FE Electrical and PE Power. They're amongst the highest rated in their individual categories. And a lot of my students use these books to prepare for the exam. Some of the students also enroll in my online exam preparation programs for FE Electrical and PE Power. These are delivered in an on-demand self-study format. And I also do frequent live trainings. So regardless of which resources you are using or have used up until this point, let us discuss how we can consolidate all the knowledge pieces that you have worked through, that you have learned, and that you have revised over the last few weeks and months. The most effective way to consolidate all of your knowledge areas, all of your learning, all the revisions, all the reviews is by means of practice exams. A lot of my students think of practice exams as a way to analyze your exam readiness. It's true, practice exams are probably the most effective way of analyzing where you stand in terms of your preparation, because they holistically test you on all exam topics. Within my program, I have computer simulated practice exams, so you don't even have to worry about a stopwatch. You don't have to time yourself. As you know, these exams are computer based. For the FE Electrical and Computer exam, you get about 3 minutes per question, and for the PE Power exam, you get about 6 minutes per question. So if you're using a paperback practice exam, then you have to time yourself. But if you're using a computer simulated practice exam like the ones that I've included free of charge for my students in my program, then you don't have to worry about it, because the countdown timer is there and you just have to work through the questions while keeping an eye on the timer, and it does simulate an exam-like environment, which makes the students a lot more comfortable during the actual exam. So using these practice exams as litmus test for your exam readiness is good, but in my opinion, it's actually a secondary utilization, not the primary utilization. I tell my students to utilize the practice exams primarily for identifying deficiencies, gaps in their understanding. I have 3 paperback practice exams for FE Electrical on Amazon. I have 2 computer simulated practice exam within my program for FE Electrical and for PE Power, several mini exams. All of these are designed to help you get that exposure to your weaknesses. So let us say you do 1 practice exam in an exam-like setting, and you give yourself only 5 hours and 20 minutes for the FE Electrical and Computer practice exam and just 8 hours for the PE Power exam. And the only resources that you refer to while you take these practice exams are just the NCS approved reference handbook, and for the PE Power, obviously the codes and standards. Once you're done with the exam, you evaluate your performance, you identify which questions you got wrong, which questions you got right, and then the questions that you got wrong for this particular practice exam, you not only try and understand the solution, but you also dig deeper into the concept. So at this stage, most of my students who are enrolled in my program, what they do is that, let's say you get a question wrong in circuit analysis, they understand my solution that I provide them, and then they go back to the lecture where I discuss KCL or KVL in order to really cement their understanding. If you're taking the PE Power exam soon, then by going through a practice problem on fault analysis, they make sure that they understand the solution that I presented them with in the practice exam, and then they go back to the lectures in the on-demand course or in the live training session or the homework assignments, and they make sure that they cement their understanding. Now, if you rinse and repeat this process with all the practice exams that you plan on using, then you can only imagine how many weaknesses you will get exposed to and how many opportunities you will get to cement them before the actual exam. And you should most definitely also take the NCS sample exams for both FE Electrical and PE Power, because they're directly coming from the exam makers, and it is important to get to know how they ask questions. It also gives you a sense of the level of difficulty, and repeat the same process with those sample exams. Make sure you understand each and every question and the solution wherever you find your understanding lacking, or wherever you find deficiencies, try and patch them up before the actual exam. Based on my experience, it typically takes one whole day to take a practice exam and at least one whole day to review your deficiencies, understand the solution, and cement the concepts. So let's say you are doing 3 practice exams. So 3 times 2 is equal to 6. So 1 day for each one of the practice exams and 1 day for review. This will be a very effective use of your time for the last week before the actual exam. Because up until this point, most likely you have been doing practice problems related to individual sections, subsections, and topics. But going through a sample exam, a mock exam, a practice exam, the week before the actual exam, which tests you holistically on all the exam topics in one sitting, prepares you extremely well for the actual exam day experience, especially if it is computer simulated. And the most important thing that you have to consciously remind yourself of during this exercise in the last week, that you're not using these practice exams like a crystal ball that tells you whether you're going to pass or fail, but you're proactively using them in order to learn about your deficiencies that you're still carrying the week before the exam so that you can patch them up. And most likely you're still going to encounter topics and questions on the actual exam which will be outside of your comfort zone. But after having gone through this exercise with several practice exams, the frequency of those occurrences hopefully is going to be very low. And at the end of the day, it can make a huge difference between you passing or failing the exam. If you like this video, I'd really appreciate it if you could give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more content on FE Electrical and Computer exam preparation as well as PE Power exam preparation. For more details about my FE Electrical and PE Power exam preparation programs, please check out my website www.studyforfe.com. Thank you. If you like this video, then please don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Feel free to ask me any questions in the comment section of this video below. You can find tons of success stories of my FE Electrical and PE Power students over here. And if you want to learn more about preparation of FE Electrical and Computer exam and the PE Power exam, then check out these playlists over here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon in the next video.